Hello again, Lorna.
OK, so Italy has got a new government this Monday. What are the papers making of that?
They're actually very optimistic in Italy. La Repubblica reports the crowd of journalists and photographers applauded Mario Monti as he walked out of the president's palace last night, having agreed to become prime minister. They also report 55% of Italians back the technocratic administration with Monti as leader. So that's quite a powerful endorsement. There's an even bigger one from a businessman who's taken out a full-page advertisement in La Repubblica today. You can see it there. It's an Italian flag saying this has been the most important weekend in the history of Italy over rather the last 60 years. And below it, they say, "Dear President Napolitano, thank you so much for making the right choice for the future of Italy. We believe, like you, that Italy is a great country that can overcome its temporary difficulties."
Wow, so very positive there. But what about the paper itself? Are their editorials just as confident?
Well, yes, actually. If we look at La Stampa's, it's called Why Italy Can Do This. They talk about the economic benefits that Italy has, the products that like high fashion and high quality food that it can export all around the world, the fact that it attracts so many tourists. They say Italy actually has lots of economic advantages. Ordinary people and small businesses aren't that indebted, for example, and there's plenty of private wealth if only the government could work out how to tax it. So they can actually claw back from this, they say. There's some doubts, though, about this, a bit of tempered optimism in La Repubblica. They point out that whatever legislation Monti tries to pass, he's got to get most of Berlusconi's parliamentarians to vote for it. If we have a look at their cartoon, they've got one character there saying you'd have to be a bandit to try and sabotage Monti's government, and the other character's replying, well, there's plenty of those in Parliament.
I wonder who they could be referring to there. But moving on, we were talking about Spain a little bit earlier on in the news bulletins, where the Indignados movement that sort of swept Europe, they took to the streets again over the weekend. And that's partly sparked by a general election campaign going on at the moment. So how's the press there covering that?
Well, let's have a look at El País. They say both candidates in the election have taken on Merkozy in recent speeches at the weekend. That's the socialist candidate Rubalcaba, who said that he thought Germany was imposing unfair budget discipline on the rest of Europe. And even the conservative candidate, Mariano Rajoy, said he thought Germans should realise that if Italy and Spain's economies collapsed, then that would affect them as well. But the paper reports that while they're both trying to kind of pitch to the 73% apparently of Spaniards who say that the Indignados are doing the right thing, it's not really going down very well. Firstly, because both of those candidates say that they will impose tough austerity policies if they come to power, and also because the Indignados movement themselves are telling their supporters not to vote for either of them. They've got a plague on both your houses approach, so they're telling their supporters to vote for smaller parties like the Greens or the extreme left, and they're not impressed by the two main candidates in attempts to kind of win them round. The Socialist Party, on the one hand, is saying in speeches that they want to represent the Indignados, and on the other hand, they're passing decrees banning them from protesting in the streets, which the paper says proves that actually they're terrified.
OK, well, another story that we've been covering in the news today, the Brazilian police invaded one of Rio's biggest favelas yesterday, and journalists there say that it's now safe for them to report from that slum for the first time in decades.
Yes, if we have a look at the paper O Globo, they've got a piece written by a reporter who was shot and nearly killed in the Rosina favela way back in 1988. He's been afraid to go back ever since, as most journalists were, because the traffickers deliberately targeted journalists would shoot at them. Now he goes back, talks to the people, and he says they're happy the government has finally taken some control over their lives. They hope they can attract tourists now, and they're also thrilled, apparently, because the police has promised to install a cable TV connection.
Lovely stuff. Just finally, The Guardian is having a look at the plight of lonely hearts in China.
Yes, their correspondent has been to a matchmaking expo in Shanghai, which apparently attracted 40,000 people this weekend. It's difficult for young Chinese professionals to find a husband or wife, especially for young men, because there's as many as 30 million more of them than there are women, because of the one-child policy and a preference for boys. But there's pretty high expectations on these singles ahead of their dates. They've been asked to display their salaries along with their interests to future dates. And lots of the 30-somethings have even brought their parents with them, such is the pressure to get married.
Goodness me, no pressure there. Not.
I know, terrifying, isn't it?
Thanks very much indeed, Elena, for that sort of roundup of today's international press. Let's get a reminder now of our top stories here on France 24 this hour. Mario Monti has been asked